Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fierce Honest Hearts. I am Heidi Ferguson, and next to me is Fidissa Ramsey, and we have Lindsay Mann back as our guest, which we're both very excited about. And yeah, so you know what? I'm not going to start with a check-in. Can I be not be the first? How do I articulate that? That'd be great. Yeah.
Lindsay, I would love to defer to you if you don't mind, just to, honor you as our guest and thank you so much for being here with us.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's always such a pleasure to hang out with both of you. And check in for me, I'm in a very curious place. And it has taken me a little while to get comfortable in the surrender of it, but I have been invited through my team in spirit and some other energies to kind of pull all of my energy back and go within myself. And as someone who's like very giving and, always trying to support in so many ways, I have these habits, and I've come to realize like, oh, like you're giving here and they're telling you to just like stop, just like take a break, just take a break, take a break. So it's been funny when they're just like, you're still not taking a break. And the funniest thing is I'm like, okay, did I do it? Like, did I do it? Did I do it? And what has been happening is the more I pull in, the more I am retreating, going within and taking care of myself. These funny little invitations of opportunities are coming to me. And I remember living in that space a few years ago and how beautifully that worked. But it seems like they're just reminding me of a place that I was in when I was so in alignment and I was so healthy and so deeply taking care of myself and listening to myself and trusting myself and allowing for all this beautiful insight and creativity to kind of come through me. So it's been really interesting. And I think the hardest part has been realizing that when I think I'm stopping and I'm not doing anything or giving anything, they're like, no, you still are. You don't even know what this means. So it's hard. It's been a challenge, but I'm listening. And now I'm just in this curious place of like, now what? So that's where I'm at. There's been a lot of stripping and a lot of shedding and a lot of letting go. So yeah, that's my check-in.
Man, we're just starting off juicy, aren't we? Thank you for naming that pulling your energy inward. And then the piece that feels so magical to me is, and then that's when the good stuff happens. Almost feels like the difference between hustle and flow. And then I get curious for you, and maybe we can talk about this, is like, you've been there before. This is an energy you said you held many years ago and that it worked beautifully for you. So how is that informing this like trust?
It's empowering me. It's reminding me just of like the eternal flood of power that we all possess within ourselves once we just stop and sit within ourselves. Sit with ourselves. It's like all your love, all your creativity, all your power just starts overflowing when you are able to just like sit with yourself and be with yourself. And it's just like all these magical things are now able to like pour out of me because I am tending to myself. And it's very simple. I'm not doing anything crazy to take care of myself. Like I'm just kind of like retreating and maybe not going there today, or giving myself the nourishing food that I know I should be eating. And, like maybe not watching that garbage on TV, like all the little things that you're just like, you know what, sitting in the quiet and the stillness, watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, watching the birds outside, like these simple little things that we take for granted that are so potent and magical. And just like this, like light just starts sparkling and you're like, oh, something's happening. And like, it's so peaceful and simple.
I love that, Lindsay. And, it's what's fascinating to me is that I'm assuming that millions of humans experience this all the time, right? And so because I also, kind of miss the most obvious things and take them for granted, and the awareness, like what I'm hearing from what you're sharing here is you have the awareness that is being created from this experience is huge. It's expanding you, and in the interim of that, you're manifesting things that I don't even know if you thought about the fact that you're manifesting, but they're happening, and how beautiful that is, and how fortunate you are. Yeah, the blessings that we don't see that are so obvious. And I love that. I'm just love your share. Thank you for that. Yeah, beautiful. Miss Fidesta, are you ready, or do you want me to go? I'm
No,
open to whatever.
I'm happy to. Yeah. And I had a hit that was like, and you doing this season this way is going to be part of your medicine. Right. Because I sense the conviction, I sense the knowing. And deeper still is like the full trust of it. So you're already being a transmission just in going through this. So thank you. Because I'm like, oh yeah, that place is juicy. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'm just riding high on classes and school and teaching and coaching. I think I get to have these really meaningful conversations multiple times a day, every day. And, I created that, right? I didn't necessarily create the school and the things, right? So I'm aware of the interdependence, but I chose this. And I look at my life several years ago where it was 8 hours of bookkeeping and none of that aliveness. So reveling in that, allowing myself to marinate, as that young girl said, in like a goal well met. So that feels really good. And then super psyched to see another army of coaches, 3 months out from graduation, and a new cohort in the fall, and just all the things, the changing of the guard, so to speak, and getting one crew done in March for another thing, and having a new crew start in April, and how many people are called right now to learning relational skills. Aware that many are not, right? But where I get to be is in the atmosphere of people who are called to understand themselves, called to understand others, called to understand their impact on others. Like that feels like the most loving thing we could learn. It's my impact on other people, right? And then there's constant feedback, whether it's from my mentors or from the students or from my peers. There's, I will say, a generous fine tuning of how I show up from all the feedback I get. And then holding that feedback gently, right? Not having it be like a thing I'm gonna whip myself with, but a thing I can chew on and go, okay, yeah, that feels true. How do I work with that? So not falling into shame about it, just getting that everyone's having my back in, hey, you kind of show up this way, or I experience you this way, or I find myself impatient when you do this, and it's like, ooh, right? And then it's like, okay, but it's meant for my good. So that's a big piece. And then I think I'll share later after check-ins, just like there's this energy is kind of coming up in me. I know soon the sap is rising in the trees and in nature, so that could be part of the yang agitation. And I'm calling it feminine rage for now. And we'll be happy to circle back on it later. It feels bigger than a check-in, but it is there. Yeah. Yeah. Over to you, Heidi.
Thanks, Fidesta. Thanks for all of that. Yeah, you did. Yes, the foundation, was the school, the relational school. And then you mentioned something in our conversation. You did all your shadow work. Yeah. So you have manifested your practice in beautiful ways, and how wonderful that is for you, for your clients. You're also teaching, so they're looking up to you as a mentor. You have mentors. So, I love the metaphor of the scaffolding that you often use. It sounds like you have created this very beautiful structure for yourself to be able to live the life the way that you want. And what a beautiful thing that is. Yeah. Wow, what is my check-in? Let's see. So I shared with Fidesta a couple days ago that I had listened to the We Can Do Hard Things podcast, where one of their guests was talking about how to have a more, I'm going to use the word healthy relationship with emotions and whatnot, and that might be a little bit more challenging. And as I've shared with all of you over the last while, that anxiety has been this thing that's percolating and coming back up for me. And what this woman talked about on that podcast was how when we feel like, so for me, mine is anxiety, to create some distance, to have some management over the anxiety by saying, oh, hello, anxiety, here you are again. You're back. I don't know why you're back, but you're back. And so, and I've been using this practice, I've been using this technique, and it's been working. I'm really pleased that it's been working. And thank you both for your responses last evening. I felt really held in that. And yeah, I don't know that I need to say anything else, but I feel like, even though I'm assuming I'm making this assumption about myself, which is that I don't feel like the anxiety is anywhere close to being gone, but I am managing it differently. And that's a game changer for me. And that feels like a real big win, winning in life kind of thing for me. Yeah, that's my check-in. So where do we want to start? I'm so excited. I'm so excited about the feminine rage. I don't know if anyone has anything else they want to share or talk about, but I'd love to start there because I want to just kind of I want more energy. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I think we likely would love to reflect back to you, since you do that for us, just hearing you. What I'm sensing or getting in touch with is you're operating from a different place with your anxiety now than maybe where you were before, and it's feeling more empowering.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not feeling crippled by it or paralyzed by it or frozen, which had been my kind of default, if you will, not knowing anything else. And so thank you for, for sure.
I just get curious what it's like to, let's say, disrupt that pattern or not be that protagonist in the story who just freezes anymore. What is that like?
Well, for sure, it feels empowering. It feels like I feel a lot more connected to who I am, as opposed to this foreign alien thing that I mean, I'm familiar with, but it feels alien to me because I know it's not who I am as Heidi. And so for the truth of this is that it has created this distance for me to think of it as a separate entity, because our emotions really aren't who we are. They're simply a part of us. Some emotions feel bigger than others. Some emotions feel like we're being taken over and our bodies are being taken over by whatever. And when it's an emotion like that, that's tough. That's really hard to be in it for weeks or months at a time. Yeah. So I feel like I feel like I'm coming back to myself, and I'm feeling more empowered, and I'm more confident. Definitely more confident. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. Yeah.
Yeah, just relating to that arc of a story in my own life. So yeah, thank you for naming it. Like we don't always have to do it the same way with our big emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lindsay, is there anything you want to share? Do we want to dive in?
Diving into feminine rage. He doesn't want to dive into that.
Right? I mean, we're like in our
talking
happy
about, yeah,
place.
speaking of empowering, right? And even like facing challenging emotions and like separating yourself and being like, okay, like I see you, I'm naming you, I know what you are, and like maybe we're not going to do this right now. We're going to figure out what you're about. We're going to listen to you. And also, I'm in control. I'm going to take back control. Whew, feminine rage, that's a big one. When you mentioned that topic, I remembered, was it yesterday or the other day? I was like driving in my car and I was just thinking about like the phrase, like the experience and the phrase of like burn the witch, burn the witch, burn the witch. Like I was remembering, like I was just thinking about that. And then I was like, okay, so these women who were connected to the earth, who were healing, and maybe they had rituals, but really power and connection. And that was a threat to the patriarchy, right? So it was burn them, right? And then I was just like, and like how non-violent a witch actually was, right? Powerful for sure. And that's the threat, right? And then where's the answer to that? Is there a, right, burn the patriarchy kind of thing? Like, and how violent and oppressive and assaulting and like, I don't know, like unjust the patriarchy has been. And so it's like, where has the burning of that been? You know, and just kind of like in my mind, I'm driving in the car and I'm like imagining what that is. It's like to burn the powerful, the peaceful, powerful, but who's ever taken down and punished and made suffer those who create violence and oppression and injustice in the world, who truly hurt people and harm people. So it was just this like I was just driving my car and I was like why hasn't that happened? And I'm not condoning violence, but I'm just saying, like, how has that gotten away with so much for so long? And that's not peace. That's not love. And how that has so damaged and destroyed the planet and culture and people and mental health and everything. So when you're talking about feminine rage and everything that's going on in the world, And even so, from micro and macro view of things that have been coming up, I am seeing the shift to take a look at that. How do we overcome? How do we create justice? Is there a karmic balance that might be in place? And I'll say on a micro level, something that I saw in this was, and this happened to me too, which I didn't know it was going to happen to me until after the fact. I was like, oh, that happened to me, shit. So earlier, like maybe like November, December, I put out a poll and asked people on Instagram to just ask me questions for the Akashic records about anything. And an astrologer friend of mine was saying he was noticing a lot of people breaking up, and something about like within like more like spiritual kind of like peacemaking communities, like these interesting dynamics and relationships. And I got a message for him that specifically people who have been peacemakers were being set up in these connections, friendships, relationships, family dynamics, whatever, where a person was being utilized as a vehicle to trigger and create pain and suffering in the peacemaker, so that the peacemaker suddenly became a fierce warrior. Like, that's enough. And what happens when the peacemakers become empowered warriors? And so that is a shift that I'm seeing. And again, it has taken some time. And obviously now we're in Aquarius, new moon, Aquarius season. And isn't that all about revolution? So what a perfect topic to talk about. So I've just been mulling over these ideas, and I'm just like, and let's say feminine rage, like we all have our masculine and our feminine within us. So this is not men versus women, right? We are talking, I mentioned Burn the Witch and patriarchy, whatever, but this is not masculine versus feminine. This is, I mean, men versus women. It's nothing like that. But it's stop thinking that the feminine is something that's weak, because it is quite the opposite. And I think that's what's being unleashed in a lot of people. And it's like, game over. That's enough. And so many people were triggered to that point, including myself, where it's like, game on. Like now the work that I do, there's a fight behind it. Now I want to empower my clients and my students to see through all the bullshit so nobody can get over on them. And I wasn't coming from that place before, but now I am. Yeah. So yeah, feminine rage, rock on.
I'm curious, Lindsay, what was the shift for you? Was there something that was sudden? Was it a gradual shift? That you just mentioned?
It was gradual. It was something that was like very clearly an old behavior of mine. And let's just say, like, flat out pretending you don't see what you see to keep the peace, because you don't want to hurt somebody, you don't want to insult somebody, whatever. Pretending you don't see what you see. And in my lesson, it was pretending I don't see what I see, what I was seeing, ignoring everything inside of me. And then coming out on the other end of it was like, holy shit, you laser. Firing on all cylinders. You had that pegged from day one. And the lesson was, you had that pegged from day one. And it was a slow, gradual process, because a part of me, the part of me that pretends that they don't see something, had to die. That part of me had to get so stabbed in the heart and hurt to be shed, and saying, no more pretending, no more playing stupid, no more playing dumb, no more appeasing people because you feel sorry for them. That's a red flag. That was my first red flag. And I will share that red flag. That a very early sign of something that is not going to be good for you is if you feel pity or some sort of sorry for someone. that is a pit that's going to drag you down with it. So never follow the I feel sorry for somebody. Most people who really need help are going to struggle to ask for it. There's a different feeling. Right? But that's something I've learned throughout my entire life. And I had that red flag and I didn't follow it. And then I went for a ride.
Thank you. That was a lot. Thank you for all of that.
It's gonna feel big, right? Because I'm just
I'm
like
like-
holding like, oh, I need a breath because yes, well, how do we hold our rage? It's different than holding our joy. And I can like, oh, it's a lot of energy to harness. Yeah. Yeah. Over to you, Heidi.
Yeah, it is. Oh, sure. Go for, yeah.
Just because you said, okay, rage and feminine rage, I want to share because I did a follow-up question about the experience. And when I asked, show me the parts of me that are dying. So I went into my Akashic records and I was just like, okay, like what's shedding, what's dying? The first thing was your rage disconnection. Being disconnected from your rage. So everybody, your rage is important. Feel that shit.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
Locked and loaded over here. How about you, Heidi?
Oh my God. I can literally feel myself expanding in this energy. And part of me is a little scared, a little scared of it. Like I'm like, wow, it's a lot. And I almost said, I feel bad for. What the hell is that? Right? Like you just said, don't allow yourself to, wow. Yeah. So, so Fidist and I, briefly touched on this a couple weeks ago, and I was responding by saying, so what is my personal responsibility? What is my personal responsibility to this? Because there are many facets to this huge thing, right? And so what is my part? And that's what she asked me in so many words. And my part is that I allowed it. And it sounds like same thing, right? Like we've all allowed it. And so how to shift that allowance? Because it's not like I can wake up tomorrow morning, flip over on my bed and say, oh, that's gone. I'm not going to allow it anymore. And so for myself, what I have learned is that one of the things that I'm shifting is my conversations with men and how I relate to them and how I allow them to relate to me and that dynamic and what that looks like. And I'm just starting out. Like this is a new part of this feminine rage journey for me. And that's okay because this, I'm 50, I'm like, dear God, like this has been my whole life. There are a lot of things that I'm working on. This is one of the things, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to be a slow on ramp. But I know the one thing I know for sure is that it is absolutely possible. It's possible. And I think for me, one of the most important things that I don't want to happen is there's already a divide that we're feeling. There's already a division that's in existence. I don't want that to get any bigger. What I would like in turn is for healing to happen, for conversations to happen, for safe spaces to be created for the feminine and the masculine together, so that we can have a conversation, so that we can come together. And I'm not, I don't want this to sound like this is like a pie in this, like I'm imagining. No, I really believe in my heart, because if the other happened, we know changes can happen. And what I really want to be clear with our audience, because I have no idea who's listening, is that masculine and feminine, those energies are in every single human, no matter how we identify, no matter how we look on the screen, no matter what we all have those qualities, every single one of us. And there's no getting away from it. You may not be in touch with it, you may be in denial about it, but brothers and sisters, it's here. 100% it's here. Ooh, we lost. Did we lose Fidista? I'm going to continue. Oh wait, oh my goodness. I don't know how to.
Oh, here she is.
She's back. Okay.
No.
We lost you for a minute. We're glad you're back.
My Wi-Fi dropped out. Keep going.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I feel I got a little distracted. So the other thing that I want to say, one of the things that's been really helpful for me is listening to the man, and I know that I've shared with both of you, different episodes and whatnot, but it's the Man Enough podcast. And it is with 3 really incredible, really well-read, very well-rounded humans, diverse. And this week's podcast, they had on a father and son, and the father, he's been doing this work in the community of raising men, raising boys, and how to do it better, and how to getting in touch with your femininity and having better relationships, and how to be with women in a healthy way. And I can add, I can put that post up there, as a link, but I listen to that episode, I listen to that podcast every week, and it refuels me, and it continues to give me hope, because I need it. I think we all need it. And I don't watch the news, so I don't really know what's happening out there. And that's my choice. But I feel like the media has been part of the divide for sure. And so for myself to take care of me the way that I need to, I made the choice 20 some years ago to stop listening, because it's just, I can't, it's too much for me. Anyway, I'm done sharing. I'm getting really hot, but I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling that too. And perhaps it's what the energy of feminine rage is there's some heat, some hot heat to it. And it's likely meant to be that way. And just, yeah, I know I blipped out there, but I was certainly engaged in what you were sharing of creating a new world where men are raised to be relational and women are raised to be relational. Let's face it, there's a lot of dysfunctional on both sides, and if we're being non-binary, that in all sides. And I appreciate just knowing, like, we're in this together. We're trying to figure it out together. And how you are choosing to relate to men, that really stuck out for me, and how you are allowing them to relate to you. That felt very powerful to hear. Yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome.
It was important to be like, wait, how am I actually going to let this person relate to me? What are my boundaries?
Right. Because, the way that I see it is that if I don't speak up for myself, is anyone else going to? Probably not. So I need to. And in my own family of origin, from a very young age, I was referred to every now and again as the one who rocked the boat, meaning the one who was honest, meaning the one who called whoever needed to be called out was called out. And there, there's some empowerment in that too. I'm like, I don't think I'm seeing it the way that you're seeing it, or the way that you're, expressing it. So I have a question about that. What might that be? And let me share my perspective. And I think that if we can bring that part of ourselves, like to remain curious, always, but to bring those parts for ourselves to conversations that can get a little dicey or tricky or sticky or whatever adjective we want to use, it's going to be for the benefit of everybody, always. Yeah. And then we're going to be left maybe feeling less ragey, less frustrated, less, I would even say less like ourselves. Like I want to feel safe, and I want to feel empowered, and I want to feel like I'm bringing myself to every conversation as the person, the woman that I am. I don't, I want to be welcomed as myself. Yeah.
Hell yeah, to being met, yes. And I guess I'll pivot in the sense of, I kind of stirred up this subject, and I can really feel a little bit more of a sped up energy in myself and you both, and like something's kicking in there and has been kicking for a while. And I think of Sunday, one of my old Presencing Institute mentors, Arwana Hayashi, did a beautiful meditative social art, like a moving art, which is your body, to see what's going on in the body. And I had a lot of like clenched fist stuff going on, which is where I kind of discovered this was happening. And she said something that I thought was really poignant in activism. I think we're all in that, whether we want to be or not, that there is an unconditional confidence of a future, a better world. But that unconditional confidence is rooted in grief and rage. Right? So the flip sides of the coin, like hope and vision, are fueled by the grief and rage. Like there's not just like a happy activist here. I am so in the genuine heart of sadness for what I see out there. That's where my activism is coming from. And it felt very validating because, of course, I want to be a gentle, loving, care bear pacifist. And yet, I think it would be really anemic if that's all I showed up with. It's kind of how I'm feeling these days. And Jason said something in class earlier today, which is why I grabbed a piece of paper. He wrote, he said, the most meaningful boundaries we set inside ourselves, right? So that we have our clear yes and our clear no internally, by which then we can inform others of our yeses and our nos. So that really got me thinking, as you both shared, like allowing yourself to go on the ride, allowing yourself to be maybe treated a certain way. And I look back and I think, yeah, in part, the conditioning of being a polite, demure, kind, whatever things as young girls we get, be polite, be kind, be nice, right? That's in there. And I think of like the woman in me now, if someone on the street started catcalling me or started stalking me, like walking behind me and stalking me, or, I've had like in the city, like someone grab my wrist and be like a big, huge, tall man, right? There'd be some fur and teeth now. And I think back then, the wisdom was I couldn't stand behind that fur and teeth and would have been unsafe. And now I feel like you're going to be unsafe if you fuck with me that way, right? And I want to just name, as women, being not as strong as the average man, we have some choices we have to make in the moment, in real time, about our safety. And that's what I was thinking about. There was like, okay, wait, I have to go through moon time and PMS and all the like, still be a business person and show up for people. And I get harassed on the street and I have to deal with aggressive masculine behavior. And I have to deal with, you know, trying to, and it's not even me, right? I think of women who they've got to be a good mother and they've got to be a good wife and they've got to show up in the boardroom and they've got to deal with their cramps and it's like, what the fuck? We deal with a lot as women. And this is not male bashing because I do know a lot of incredibly good men. I think it's a request that they try to see how much less safety and less security we have in the world. And I know they won't ever be able to fully get it. And I think that's okay. But it's like, try to get what it's like to walk out of your house and not be left alone, not be able to just go run your errands, have to deal with people following you or whatever, or calling you names because you try to ignore them for calling you certain things, right? And that's like micro. For me, that's like, okay, yeah, that's my life. No problem. That's first world problems, right? Still important. But then I think of like yesterday was International Education Day. And I think of all the women in my homeland who, because of their gender, simply because of their gender, can't go to school and can't go to work and now can't go to parks, can't walk on trails, aren't allowed into just about every place in Afghanistan. So they're supposed to cover their head and stay home and have babies as though we're like, in the BC era of things, or even 200 years ago. I'm realizing it wasn't that far ago that was the only choice for a woman. And then who are these people, Lindsay, like you were saying with the patriarchy? Because I don't think the good men of the world would place these kind of oppressive energies onto others. This is not, I think the men are getting robbed too through the patriarchy, right? They're getting stuck in their man box. They're not able to express their emotions. So who is this entity that we're talking about that, as you said, has not been held to account, right? And what's the revolution look like? I think that's my question as a rebel and as someone who's really harnessing, this is not okay, particularly based on gender. Like that feels like a real dig to me, considering how powerful women are. And perhaps that's the whole thing. The Taliban could have all kinds of enemies and threats. Their biggest threat is a 12-year-old girl going to school. Well, that tells us where the power is, right? It affirms how powerful the feminine and women are, if they're the biggest threat. So how do we harness that? That's my question. Like those people in many countries right now, including our own, are showing us who they think is the most powerful by who they are most on a witch hunt about. So how do those people get empowered if indeed they are the most powerful? Right? Like I'm throwing this twist in of being like, I'm kind of excited because people are showing us where their weakness is in the patriarchy by who they're pointing fingers at. It's like how do we get those people that are the most powerful empowered? Yeah, I don't have an answer there. Maybe that's part of the rage too, is I don't have an answer yet. And I want a better world for people.
Yeah, I think that I'm also feeling frustrated because I don't have an answer. And there are probably lots of, I know that there are lots of answers, right? So it's not just one response or one answer. one solution, there are many. And like, where to start, right? I know one of the places that feels really obvious to me is the media. And I'll elaborate, I'm aware of time, but I'll elaborate a little bit on that. And that is, you know, if I'm just scrolling through Google and, you know, just kind of like the highlights of the day or whatever, and I think to myself, do we really give a shit what this woman, you know, a celebrity, went to meet with so-and-so and what she was wearing? Like, why is that so important? Why is a description of what she's wearing, it's low cut, like it's all clickbait, right? Like, we know that. But then when it comes to a male, that's never talked about, what he was wearing. And I'm like, that's fascinating to me. Why is that the clickbait? Why is that so attractive to people? And if there wasn't an audience for it, they probably wouldn't do it. But for some reason, people are clicking on that. They see that, they click that, and I want to vomit, because I'm like, I can't even believe that we're still here. So I think that's, I really, you know, I really strongly believe that the media is part of it. And of course, there's an audience for it. And also, you know, that is part of changing the narrative. And so when we show up to speak about these things, to have this conversation here is really important, right? And that is a huge part of my rage. I get so enraged, and I'm like, we're in the year 2023 and that's where we still are. Anyway, I feel myself expanding and getting hot again. I'm like, okay, Heidi, it's okay.
And maybe like that's where we take our breaths, right? Like this is
Yeah.
how we learn to like hold the rage, but not let it start to carry us a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just want to appreciate you for saying that. And Lindsay, I'm curious your thoughts too, because even as I asked that question and you kind of answered, it's like, oh, the work I do to get people to be more emotionally intelligent and relational is part of it. The work that you both do to help people trust their intuition and their instincts and not override themselves is a part of it. And it feels much more hopeful to think there's millions and millions and maybe billions of us putting those drops in the bucket.
Uh-huh.
And that it's slow. The frustrating part that it's slow and gradual. Yeah. And I can see a world that doesn't look like this. Yeah. Lindsay, how about you?
I'm feeling like such a rise of just like anger in hearing these conversations. Like, it's really up in here. And my take right now is a little bit on the scolding the male population. My life experience has not been of impressive male figures. It is either pathetic, helpless, or violent, abusive extremes. I have had friends who have been incredible, whatever, but I'll say the majority is this just generally pathetic example. And so when we're talking about, you know, women of the world being so oppressed that they can't go to a park, that they can't enjoy basic rights of being able to live a life and expand and grow. And I'm like, even in your question, I'm like, okay, well, what can the feminine do? Like, what can you do? Like, I'm like, okay, like you can be creative, be adaptable, like try and figure it out. But like, I keep seeing this image of, yeah, but something else has to help pull you out from under that oppression. And so my question is, even within the leadership of our own country, these pathetic examples of male leadership, and I'm shaking when I'm saying this, my question is, masculine male energy thinking that they're so powerful and they can do all these things, where the fuck are you right now? And you're like, when we're saying, oh, there's these great men out there and they're doing these things, where? Like, step on a big stage, step on a big platform, take out these false leaders, get rid of them, do something. It's when a woman is being sexually assaulted and there are other men there and they don't say anything. That's what's happened. So my rage is coming from that place. So it's that, where are you? Do something. Women are doing so much. They're calling out so much bullshit. They're being so educated. They're fighting so hard. Where is the masculine equivalent? Where is the divine masculine? Step the fuck up and do something. Put your face on a big stage. Do something. You like, take this stuff out. It's enough. We can do a lot, but we also have to work together and we need help. Where is the provider? Where is the protector? Where is the divine masculine that says, I got this. I got you, baby. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of this. I've got your back. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to serve too. So there's my feminine rage, because I actually, do not have empathy or any lenience towards these good men, these great men who aren't stepping the fuck up. I actually want to slap you in the face. Where are you? Do more. And get your boys together to do more too. Slap them in the face. Punch them in the fucking face. Get them to wake the fuck up and step up. That's enough. That's enough. Look at our world. Sorry, that's where I'm at. Rage reconnected.
No, I do not accept your apology.
I don't either.
Under any circumstances, because that was badass and raw and real. And yeah, I think there are many millions of women who can relate to, like, where the fuck are the good guys? Because we can't shoulder this alone. We're also not in those seats of powers in the same way. And like, the people that can infiltrate that, as you're saying, are those men, right? While time allows women to step more and more into the arena, which is happening. But fuck yeah. Yeah, no more good old boys club. Because like, my question is always, is it working? No. Right? Whether it's a couple, whether it's an individual and their own stuff, or a government, is it working? It's working for a very small percentage. And yeah, that's not working for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Thank you for bringing it from a real place. I don't think we women get to go there as often as we feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Heidi?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And the last thing that I want to add, it might not be the last thing, but I think it's the last thing, is that the underlying current, like you're asking, where are these men? Where are the good men? I think the underlying current is fear. I really believe that in my heart of hearts. And I don't want that to be true, but I think that's true. There's a fear, because if anyone, and we're talking about men mostly, but if anyone is going to step over that divide, because it's a divide, and support the feminine, that's a risk. They have to take a risk. And so maybe the other question is, why aren't they taking a risk? They're not taking a risk because they're scared. And what will everyone else think? I think that's also under like a really strong current. What will so-and-so? What if so-and-so's not? What if I lose? Fuck it. Lose your friends. You're gonna lose people. Anytime we make a choice, anytime we flip the script, whatever, we are going to lose people. We're going to lose friends. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then, do you have the foresight to see beyond yourself? Can you look beyond your own little world? Is that possible? And if it is, welcome, come on, let's figure this out together. Let's figure out how we can bring it all together. But again, there's a risk. And I think the risk is really scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I would love to just piggyback with the fact that so many young boys get the feminine beat out of them one way or another by bullies, by their fathers, hell, by their mothers, I don't know, right? By society. They suppress their own feminine gifts, then they grow into men. So part of the warriorship, like the Man Enough podcast, and I think of Connor Beaton and Jason Gaddis and these people working with men, is for them to see the brilliance of the feminine within themselves and then to fight for it. But if you're already trying to keep that at bay, are you really going to go into the risk and the arena of the feminine? I don't know. Right. Yeah, I feel like this is a bigger conversation. Maybe even a part 2 might be in order. And yeah, we're all doing our part, and there are people that could show the fuck up. That's what I'm getting from this, right? Yeah, because it's destructive when I think of simply what's going on in Iran or in Afghanistan, and like women fighting for basic rights. Like, can I leave the house? Can I have a choice other than babies? Right? Could I have a career? Could I go see my friend at a coffee shop? These freedoms that we have, right? And I continue to get outraged at, like, who the fuck are you to think you're here to police a woman, the most powerful, creational, mystical, you know, kind of creature. And where did you get it in your head? You're the general manager of the universe here.
Right.
So there's just so much trauma in there too. I'm not making excuses for the traumatized masculine, just naming that trauma makes beasts of us all.
Yeah.
And that's in there too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
whew,
Wow.
that was a ride.
That was a ride. And I love the idea of a part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I think we're gonna skip the chat pack. I'm okay with that. Just want to kind of give air and space to anything else we might want to say or mention in the last few moments, and then sign off. Lindsay, is there anything else that you want to share or add? Thank you for bringing what you've brought thus far. And Fidista too. It's been really, yeah, it's been beautiful.
Appreciating your grief and your rage, Lindsay. Just appreciating like the modeling of, yes, those can fire us up for change.
Yeah, I think, I get that like old part of me that thinks, even like ending on like pretending that everything's okay, and that like maybe I didn't, maybe there's some lighthearted ending in like what I felt or said. And it's like, no, that's really how I feel. And I've been feeling that way for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like waiting for a really long time to see proof of life of that in this world, and getting really tired of holding my breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I kind of stand there of just like, fired up to do what I do, teach what I teach, zero tolerance, and demanding respect or disengaging, putting effort and focus in places where change can happen support things, people, places where things can move forward, progress can be made, people are open and willing to evolve and change and develop self-awareness. And so utilizing that fire to fight. And I don't think I've felt a fight as externally as I do now.
Yeah. And I'll just close with my headline. Thank you. Is like, for those people, yes, it's a risk. Yes, you've got some things you can bring, like get off the fucking fence and do something, as Lindsay said. Like, figure it out, find your place, be part of it, because my sense is like it's going to take every single one of us with our medicine, with our awareness, to move this, to shift this. And I think that's why we're here. So yeah. Heidi,
Yeah.
closing.
Closing thoughts. First of all, thank you for those who hung in there with us through this very energy-filled hour. We appreciate you. And I want to invite people to really take the time to listen to each other in your conversations with open hearts and open minds as much as you can. Because if we can start somewhere, there are many places we can start, but in the moment, as I'm kind of mulling this over in my head, I'm like, that's a pretty simple place to start. Because listening is I would say probably 99% of this is listening to each other with respect. Thank you everyone for being here today. We thank Lindsay, our guest. And we will see you all next time. Feel free to hit subscribe, like us. It gives more engagement. And
Drop a comment.
Drop a comment. If you please drop a comment, we would love to hear from you.
If you agree, if you don't agree, if we've activated you, if you're relating, it doesn't matter. Like, let us see you in whatever's coming up.
We welcome it all. Yeah. Until next time. Stop recording. Sorry.